Okay, let's dive into a development that is sending some serious shockwaves across the globe: the new Mutual Defense Pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Now, this is way more than just another piece of paper. We're talking about a pivotal moment here, something that's creating a whole new power axis in West Asia, and it's got huge implications for the entire world order. So let's break down how we even got here and what it all really means. Right, this pact didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was really forged in the fire of a rapidly destabilizing region. For years, you had the Gulf nations feeling like the United States was kind of stepping back, not really the reliable security guarantor it used to be. At the same time, those constant Houthi drone and missile attacks from Yemen were showing everyone just how vulnerable Saudi Arabia's expensive high-tech air defenses actually were. And then you had the final catalyst, that unprecedented Israeli airstrike on Doha on September 9th, 2025. That one event proved, in a flash, that no Gulf capital was truly safe. And that, right there, was the perfect storm of fear and urgency that pushed this historic alliance across the finish line.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with the pact itself. What's actually in it? Then we'll get into the motives, the why, for both Riyadh and Islamabad. From there, we'll zoom out and look at the shockwaves hitting India, Iran, and Israel, and what this signals for the rest of the world. And finally, we'll look at the big challenges this new alliance is going to face down the road.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this new power pact. What makes this agreement so much more than just a piece of paper? Well, it's all about turning decades of informal friendship into a formal, completely ironclad military alliance.
Here it is. This is the heart of the entire agreement, the Collective Security Clause. It's that classic, an attack on one is an attack on both principle. Think NATO's Article 5. And this is a massive shift. The relationship just went from unwritten understandings and goodwill to a binding legal treaty obligation. For military planners, this changes the whole game. It means joint contingency planning, integrated command structures. It formalizes a commitment. And that raises the stakes for any potential enemy big time. Now, here's where the language gets really interesting. Officials describe the pact as encompassing all military means. That phrasing is so deliberately broad, and it's a really powerful bit of strategic ambiguity. In diplomatic and military circles, everyone knows what that really means. It's widely seen as coded language for one thing, and one thing only: Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. It's the clearest signal we've ever gotten that this pact provides a de facto nuclear umbrella for Saudi Arabia, and that, my friends, is a game changer for the Middle East's balance of power.
And this alliance is deep. It's got layers. It takes a security partnership that's been active since the 1960s and finally makes it official, bringing it out of the shadows. It institutionalizes the Pakistani troops already in the kingdom, giving them a formal legal framework. And that could mean more troops are on the way. This opens the door for much deeper integration, like joint defense production. Imagine Saudi Arabia tapping into Pakistan's pretty robust military-industrial complex. We're also going to see bigger, more complex joint exercises, like the Nassim al-Bahr naval drills. But let's be real, underpinning all of this is that implicit and incredibly powerful nuclear guarantee.
This table just lays out the transformation so clearly. What was an informal defense commitment based on handshakes is now a legally binding clause. The nuclear dimension, something that was always whispered about, is now a de facto reality that enemies have to factor into their plans. Pakistan goes from being a kind of friend for hire in the background to a formal security guarantor with treaty obligations. And the money? It's no longer a simple donor-recipient model. It's supposed to be a strategic investment partnership. The bottom line is pretty simple. This is a huge step away from relying only on the US and toward real security diversification.
So that's the what. But now we get to the why. What on earth drove these two nations to take such a massive step? Well, this is basically a story of fear and finance, where the very distinct but perfectly complementary needs of two countries just happen to meet at the perfect moment.
The dynamic is actually pretty straightforward. For Saudi Arabia, this is all about security. They're losing confidence in the US, they need to deter an increasingly bold Iran, and that Doha bombing was a terrifying wake-up call. For Pakistan, the driver is overwhelmingly economic. The country desperately needs a financial lifeline, and this pact is the key to unlocking billions in Saudi investment. It's a classic case of interests aligning. One nation's hunt for security meets another's need for economic salvation. Saudi Arabia is pretty much using its massive wealth to buy strategic depth, while Pakistan is leveraging its military power to secure its economic future.
Let's dig a little deeper into Riyadh's fears because they are real. The feeling that America isn't a reliable partner anymore has been growing for years, especially after what they saw as a pretty weak U.S. response to earlier attacks on their oil facilities. Iran's nuclear program is a constant source of anxiety, and Riyadh wants a deterrent of its own. The constant Houthi attacks have proven that even their multi-billion-dollar Western air defense systems aren't foolproof. And again, that airstrike on Doha, it just changed everything. It made the threat real and immediate, and it sent them scrambling for a powerful, non-Western ally that would have their back no matter what. Now, let's flip over to Pakistan's side of the equation. The country's in a serious economic crisis, and this pact is seen as the gateway to massive Saudi investment. But it's not just about the money. It's also about strategic relevance. This deal formalizes Pakistan's role as a top-tier security provider for the Gulf, a position it has wanted for a long time. It also acts as a strategic counterweight to its rival, India, which has been making its own friends in the region. And there's a really smart military benefit here. Closer ties give the Pakistani military priceless training opportunities on sophisticated Western hardware that the Saudis own, like the Rafale jets, which, by the way, the Indian Air Force also flies. That gives them incredible insights into a rival's best equipment. An alliance this big doesn't happen in a bubble. It creates immediate, complex ripple effects. So let's expand our focus now to the neighbors on the outside, who are all being forced into a whole new set of strategic calculations. To really get the reaction from New Delhi, you first have to understand this chart. The economic link between India and Saudi Arabia is enormous. We're talking bilateral trade of nearly $43 billion, which absolutely dwarfs Riyadh's trade with Pakistan. This isn't just some minor trading partner. It's a deep, strategic economic relationship. And that massive financial stake is exactly why India's response has to be so careful and so complex. They have a ton to lose. And that leads us to the central question for policymakers in India. I mean, what do you do? How do you handle a situation where one of your most important strategic partners has just signed a binding military alliance with your number one rival? This is the definition of a diplomatic tightrope walk, forcing New Delhi to navigate this treacherous path between its economic interests and its national security. So let's break down what this means for India. Militarily, it's a headache. Any future conflict with Pakistan now carries the risk, even if it's theoretical, of dragging in Saudi Arabia. Diplomatically, it puts their carefully built partnership with Riyadh to the test. So it's no surprise that the official Indian response has been super cautious, basically just saying they will study the implications. But there might be a silver lining. Some analysts think that Riyadh, now so deeply tied to both sides, could be in a unique position to step in as a mediator and cool things down during future crises between the two rivals. For two other key players in the region, Iran and Israel, the view is much simpler and a whole lot more alarming. For them, this is not a good thing. It's a direct strategic threat. From Tehran's perspective, it creates a formal Sunni bloc on its border, now with a nuclear backstop. For Israel, it means its main rival, Iran, is now being countered by a Saudi Arabia that has its own nuclear deterrent, which makes their strategic math way more complicated. This new axis will almost certainly speed up their own military programs and just pour more fuel on the fire of regional arms races and proxy wars. Let's widen the lens even further now, all the way to the global stage. Because this pact isn't just about regional drama. It carries a very clear, very deliberate message for the long-time heavyweight champion of the region, the United States. What this really is a conscious decision by Saudi Arabia to diversify its security portfolio. It's basically a public announcement that they will no longer put all of their security eggs in Washington's basket. This signals a major move toward a more multipolar Middle East, a huge shift away from the US-centric model we've seen for the last 50 years. Yeah, this pact really brings the changing Middle East into sharp focus. It highlights that perception of US unreliability. And in its place, we're seeing the rise of a powerful, non-Western security bloc that can act on its own without waiting for a green light from Washington. For the United States, this is a long-term challenge to its influence, its diplomatic leverage, and its ability to project military power. It signals a new era where regional powers are taking security into their own hands. So, the signatures are on the paper, the alliance is real. But honestly, that was the easy part. Building an alliance that actually lasts is full of challenges, which really begs the question, is this pact built to last? Let's take a look at the fault lines that could test this new partnership to its absolute limits. You can think of three big, critical fault lines here. First, there's the risk of entanglement. This pact could drag Pakistan, which shares a long and complicated border with Iran, directly into the Saudi-Iran rivalry. Second, what does aggression even mean? What actually triggers the mutual defense clause? A Houthi drone strike? A cyber attack? When a crisis really hits, you can bet that national interest, not the words in the treaty, will decide the response. And third, you have the inevitable backlash. Negative reactions from other powerful countries could create enough external pressure to destabilize the whole thing from the outside.
So what do they have to do to make this thing work? Well, first, they've got to institutionalize it, set up a permanent joint military committee to turn the words on the page into an actual operational plan. Second, and this is absolutely crucial for Pakistan, the pact has to deliver real economic results. Those promised Saudi investments, they need to start flowing, and fast. And finally, both countries have to pull off a really sophisticated diplomatic balancing act to calm the nerves of India, Iran, and the US, to reassure them that this is a defensive pact, not an offensive one.
And all of this brings us to the final critical question. We've looked at this pact from all sides, its structure, the motivations, the huge implications. But what is its ultimate legacy going to be? Is this a smart geopolitical move that creates a new, stable balance of power? Or have they accidentally lit the fuse on an even more dangerous and widespread war? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this the single most important strategic development to watch in the coming years.
Now, this is obviously a really complex topic with a lot of moving parts. To explore it a bit more, you can visit our website for a deeper analysis and some really great revision mind maps that help connect all the dots. The link is right there in the description. Thanks so much for watching.